unrealistic. Human beings put unrealistic expectations on ourselves. That's pretty universal. We're not very humane to ourselves. I should be perfect. I should know it all, see it all, be it all, do it all, have it all. I should know how to do things. I shouldn't have to ask for help. I mean, we have these crazy belief systems about ourselves. And when we get those expectations down to reality, that's when we start to really recover from this anger-fear combination. But we have to get here to be able to solve for it. What's the fear? Is it just that I don't know what I'm going to do with my finances? Then let's call Kathy, right? Is it something I just don't know about how to take care of my car? Well, this is why these groups are so great, because you can swap ideas. I got a great mechanic. I've got a great handy person. I know somebody who does this, that, and the next thing. So you can break that fear by getting someone who does know about it. We're not supposed to know everything. We're just little human beings with a little pocket of brain in here with a little specialty about something we know. That's all we know. And then, of course, with expectations, write that fear out and then ask yourself, the question has to be asked, is this an expectation? Am I expecting me to be something superhuman? And last I looked, none of us was very superhuman. And then how do I rewrite?
Resentment fits in anger? Where does resentment fit in there?
Well, I think that's on that continuum. Remember I spoke about irritation, frustration.
So it's on the anger.
It's on the continuum. Yeah. Well, the problem with resentment is resentment is a persistent, I'll use the word persistent. It can become vegetatively persistent, where it becomes kind of a characteristic. That's not good. So I don't like to lump it in there, because I want to make sure if we've got resentment, that we're dealing with that on a different level, if that makes sense to you. Does this make sense?
Yes. Can I ask a question about anger? Because I felt like, and I've heard other people say, that the anger was fueling me to take action.
Yeah.
I was so angry, but I was like superhuman. I had energy, I had determination.
And what did you do with that?
I packed boxes and moved to houses and learned what I needed, and yes, I did. Motivated me.
See, I wish I was angrier because I don't know. See, I think resentment for me is very motivating. See, I think if you're not angry, though.
Check it out.
I have resentment.
It's sounding a lot like it. It's sounding a lot more like anger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not there yet.
Well, interesting. I think it has to be.
Well, you may be directing it yourself first. Get it off you and put it on someplace else. But, I'm just by listening to you, I'm thinking, I'm wondering. I don't know if it is or not.
I remember when I started coming here, I was talking about that my husband cheated on me and he had an affair, but I'm not feeling anger. But with time, I got
there.
Yes.
you kind of have to peel off all the other layers, don't you? Yeah, to get to it.
So,
it's a valuable emotion. It's just if we use it poorly, it behaves poorly for us. If we use it well, as in this category, it does very well for us.
How do you get rid of that then? How do you know when you're
You'll
done?
know. Physical symptoms. When our bodies are under a lot of distress, we have, your emotions run the show. They run this body of ours. So when our emotions are stressed, your body is stressed. So this is the time when you need to be taking the best care of yourself as you possibly can. And as often as when we do the worst, right? Mm-hmm. So what's some good care for yourself? Well, we know that food matters. And I like I saw at the health club the other day, I saw a guy who was walking around with a t-shirt, and I've got to get one for myself. It said, "Eat like you give a damn." I love that. What about diet? We know, science tells us, processed foods, especially when you're under distress, get rid of them. They slog the brain down. You've got one brain. This is the only one you get. There's not a spare. We've got 2 lungs, we've got 2 livers, or not 2 livers, we've got 2 kidneys, we got pretty much dual everything. We only got one of these. And this is the powerhouse. And we don't know much about it. We haven't focused a lot of attention on it because we haven't known. Now we know a lot, and not nearly enough. And we know that food matters in that brain, and you have a lot of work. Your brain is working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with this. It needs all the charging up it can get, and your diet is where it gets that charging. So you should be eating, here I go, unprocessed foods as much as you can, which means whole foods, lean meats, lots of fruits and vegetables, heavy on the vegetables, and you're not going to like this, cut out the alcohol. Cut out the alcohol.
Cut out anything your body's really reacting to.
Well, it's a depressant, and you're already dealing with a lot of it.
Thank you. And I never know which one of you is going to tip over to the other side. I don't know what your genetics are. And so often people will go, it's the fastest, easiest chemical we have, drug we have to try and relieve the pressure. And it can just like, it's just, it just pulls everything away for a little while.
But then the next day you feel it.
I always ask if you care to drink alone. Like, do you like to drink alone? I think that's a good indicator, because I don't like to drink alone.
Yeah, I don't know. People drink alone. It doesn't mean they're alcoholic, always.
No, I'm not saying it's alcoholic, but it's something you should look at.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's about occasionally may not be the problem, but if you start to use this as a regular means of coping, then I get really nervous. And I don't know who's going to be that person, so I always say, just don't do it. Let's learn to cope with this on your own, because you can handle it. You don't need it. You can handle it. And it's not good for you anyway. So diet is a big deal. Here's the next big thing now you're hearing a lot about sleep. Now the research is coming about the brain and sleep, right? 8 hours. Why is that so important? Because, well, we know that, again, that's where the brain gets, all the little garbage trucks in the brain get in there and start cleaning out the garbage for the day and cleaning it out. And what doesn't get cleaned out stays in there. And what happens to that stuff? It becomes plaque. What does plaque do? Messes with dementia and Alzheimer's. So sleep is becoming a very critical component. Now, this is often when you guys are most disrupted with your sleep, is when we're under stress, right? Now we've got menopause. That really raises hell. So now is the time to get good sleep habits. Get online and look for good sleep habits. And it's not difficult. It just requires your attention.
You know what helped me? Was acupuncture.
Well, that works sometimes, yes.
I used to average 4 hours, and now I'm at 6.
Yeah. 4 hours is about the national average. Does anybody know how much human beings need?
7 or 8.
7 or 8 for adults.
9 would be like...
4 is our national average.
I've never got that.
Scary.
And I read somewhere that being severely sleep deprived is as dangerous as like driving
Drunk.
Like because of what it does to your judgment.
Totally.
Yes.
Totally.
Welcome to being a mom, man.
Here's a way to help you sleep.
Yeah,
that
that's
does
what I was just going to say.
I thought that.
Your diet will affect your sleep.
Same Jim.
Alcohol, heavy fatty foods,
Yes.
sugar. Processed foods. Caffeine, thank you. And exercise will help give you the exhaustion you need to sleep. And it doesn't take much. The body only requires 30 minutes minimum. But I've noticed when I hit about 25, if I've had a tough day or something and I start to work, I can feel the switch flip in my brain at about 25 minutes, whatever I'm doing. And after that, it's just happy time. And I can walk away whistling when I walked in, kind of,
this weekend when I was so stressed out?
Yeah.
I found that if I just listened to my own body, who said, go to bed, it's 8:30, don't look at the clock, just go to bed. I did.
Good
and
for
I
you.
slept for 9 hours straight.
Perfect.
I got up and the next day I listened to my body again and I did it again. And I'm like, whoa, I should have been able to do this a long time ago. But it really,
You're absolutely,
really
you're
changed
saying
how
such a
I
valuable thing. Listen to this body. It tells you everything you need to know, but we just shut it off and just let's do another thing on this laptop or let's, whatever. I could go on forever, so I won't. And then here's the latest piece that's coming out in the prescription pads.
Yeah. Totally.
So if you haven't already started, start.
Prayer.
Anything, rosary beads, they're all meditative. Yoga is great for the body. So we want you to get that mind calmed. And here's a fast and easy way to calm that mind. Have you all got smartwatches or something that most of us have telephones that ding? Time it for 3 to 4 times out of the day to ring, to get you to stop. Whatever you're doing, just stop and breathe 4 or 5 times deeply in and deeply out. Just 4 or 5 times. When that's done, continue. But do that 3 or 4 times a day. You'll notice a difference in yourself.
Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth.
Whatever feels right for you. But the deep breathing makes you stop and calm. The brain has to stop and calm. And you've got a lot of chaos going on in that brain right now. Okay. Despair is where people will often find themselves in my practice. They're feeling really scared. And again, physical symptoms are a part of that. Restlessness, can't sit still, can't focus, can't concentrate. They've read the same paragraph the last 15 times and they still don't know what it says. They're making all kinds of mistakes at work. You drive the same way to work for the last 15 years and today you miss your exit and you wake up going, where am I? How did I get here? Or you run that red light. Oh my gosh, what are all those horns about? It's about me, I just ran that red light. Very, very preoccupied. But the disorganization, and that's that scrambling where I feel like I'm losing my mind. I can't remember anything, I can't read anything, I'm making mistakes. And I had a gentleman come in, a minister come in who said, I'm here because I think I have Alzheimer's. And I said, well, why do you think you have Alzheimer's? He said, when I get up in the pulpit, I can't remember what I'm going to say. I've had to write it out. And then I got to the point where I couldn't even remember where I was on the page. And I had to make sure there was a second pastor there in case I stopped functioning. And I said, well, what in the world is bringing this on? And he said, he said, let me tell you my story. My son was killed in a drug deal that went bad about 3 months ago, and his wife was, it just went on. You don't have Alzheimer's. You're bereaved. Your brain is overwhelmed with something else. But what really is going on, even though it looks very disorganized on the outside, what really is going on is that you have a very organized preoccupation going round and round in your brain. It's like the marquee that goes around the bank buildings. In this little notebook that I have here, I made it as a companion to the book because this is so valuable. There's an exercise that I ask my clients to do, that you sit down 15 minutes a day and just spend some time with these 3 questions going around and around your head. Now these 3 questions are: number 1, what in the world have I gained here, or what am I losing? And your job is just to try and make this snarl of information to start to become somehow better organized. What am I gaining or losing? And remember, there's both sides coming. You are gaining and you are losing. So don't forget one to overwhelm the other. Keep that going. The second question that's running around this marquee is, how do I feel about this? And your job, again, is to take all these emotions that are just kind of tangled up in there, pull them apart and organize them. Name them. Own them. I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling confused, I'm feeling relieved, I'm feeling guilty, I'm feeling shame, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling like I'm surviving. I don't know, you have the feelings, but you just identify them. Widows group. And as we went through the group, she went through his papers and sort of things as you do to do the legal stuff, and she found all these pictures of him in lewd and lascivious positions with other women. Oh, God. Wow. Can you imagine? I can't even imagine. So this group was so wonderful. They were very supportive, and I remember at one point we were talking about this, and I said, what would you like to do? This was several weeks later. So what would you like to do? And she said, I'd like to go and piss on his grave. I think I even put it in the book here. It might be in the book. Anyway, and I was surprised. I thought, oh God, what's going to happen now? And all the people in the group said, that's a great idea. Let's get a big pickle jar. We'll all pee in it, and we'll take it out there, and we'll pour it in. And they did.
That's somewhat understandable.
Yeah. Totally.
I wouldn't say excusable necessarily, but understandable.
Totally. And she's an author, and she wrote about it in her book as well. And I think I brought it in this, I'm not sure. But that's a good example of taking something that is an emotion and then doing something productive with it. Didn't hurt anybody, but it really relieved a lot of it.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. And the third question that's running around that marquee is, who am I now? Now, this is a tougher question. This is the one you'll spend a lot longer answering, and you will find that it changes daily from morning to night, day to day, week to week. But over the weeks and months you work with this, the words, the adjectives you use to describe yourself will start to become more consistent, more powerful, less resentful, less vulnerable, less victim, and much more empowered. And that's what we're going for. And what you're doing is your grief is just searching for the answers to those 3 questions. And the biggie is searching for your sense of self again. Detachment, how are we doing on time? Can I go to 9? Can I? Okay. Detachment. At some point in time, this is this part of the therapy that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. At some point in time, you guys will reach a crossroads. So maybe some of you have already reached it. But that crossroads, I like to call the bitter road or the better road. Now, if you choose the bitter road, you're going to stay angry and resentful and victimized, if you will. And it's okay to be a victim. You know, we're all victims of something. But it's just not okay to stay a victim. It's okay to be angry. It's just not okay to stay angry. You know? So, where was I going with this? Detachment. Oh, crossroads. So, if we choose that, well, that's the bitter road. If I choose to stay victimized and helpless and powerless, and it's really easy to do in divorce, especially if you're the one who's been said, I don't want to live with you anymore. It's real easy to take that on as, oh, I'm just a waste of skin. You know, I'm using oxygen and I shouldn't even be doing that. It's real easy to get there, and you want to be careful about that because that's not the truth, first of all. And it's also setting up a helplessness that is not going to do you well. What do we know about people that kind of stay victims? They hold that negative.
More bitter and more bitter.
And what do we do with those people?
Nobody wants to be around.
Nobody wants to associate with
And
them.
there are physical symptoms to that, too.
Nobody wants to be around it, do we? Why don't we want to be around it?
It's depressing, it's negative.
It sucks the life right out of us. And when we're trying to keep ourselves up, I don't know about you, but I don't need anybody pulling me down, right? I need all the energy I can get. So the goal is to kind of move toward the better road. Now the better road says, okay, I get it. I didn't ask for this, but I got it. This isn't what I expected out of my life, but it's what my life is. Now this is the hand I've been dealt, and I am the only one that can play this hand. So how can I play this hand the most productive and positive way for me? That's heading toward the better road. And with that comes kind of a resignation that nobody's going to fix this but me. My group isn't going to be able to do this for me. My attorney isn't going to be able to. My doctor, my therapist, my children, my minister. I'm the only person that can make this life right is me. And that sinks on very heavily. And when it settles on, that's when you start to feel a little isolated. It's only me. I'm all alone in this. It's just me. And that's a scary feeling too. But at the same time, you are there because you have empowered. You've gotten power. You've gone through some of this stuff and you're realizing you've got the strength to do it now. And I can do it. I just know I got to do it myself. And I've got resources, I've got options, I've got information now. I think I can do it. And that's when we start to withdraw from places that we've used prior to now. These support groups are meant to be temporary. They're meant to get you up where you're needing to go, and eventually you're going to sift away from this because you don't need it. You recognize
Grief and loss of the
this
support group.
or redefinition of self. Yeah, but you start to recognize this doesn't work so well for me anymore. I'm not getting the same thing out of it that I used to. It just isn't helping me as much as it used to. And that's a message that said it's time to move on. And we might withdraw from old friends. You know, we used to be in a coupled world. Well, I'm not a couple anymore. I need single friends, right? We start to withdraw. People around you are going to get concerned about that. Your family, your friends. You're not friends with the people. Why don't you call these people? Why don't you do things? And they're going to want to get you back to being the person you were. And it's important that you spend some time telling them, that person is gone. This is the new one. She needs new stuff. And they remain your old friends. You know, that won't ever end, but you just don't relate to them, and you see them less often, or when you do it for different reasons. And finally, the reorganizing. I say finally because it's on that secular thing, but it's happening right now in all of you. It's a constant. It's coming and going. It's like a respiration. It's you're growing and you're receding, and you're growing and receding. You reorganize yourself. Maybe you cut your hair, maybe you grow your hair, maybe you gain weight, maybe you lose weight, maybe you paint the bedroom blue, maybe you get different sheets, maybe you move from your house, maybe you change jobs. It's not uncommon to change jobs. It was shocking to me. It seemed like there was this 2-year timeline that I'd start working with people, and about 2 years later they'd come back to say, I can't do this job anymore. It doesn't fit me. And they'd look at it as a negative, and I'm going, oh, yay! Look how much you've reorganized. You're such a different you recognize you're so different now, you need different things, and the job just doesn't fit anymore. You need one that fits the new you, right? So you physically may find you put changes in your life. Socially, we talked about that. Friends, organizations, you get rid of old organizations don't work, you put new ones in your life that do. Philosophically is probably the most powerful. This is where the most gains, I believe, come through these traumas that we have. What I know to be true about life, birth and death, I think, change us more than any other events in our lives. And why? Because they are so real. I don't know, for you people that have children, you know how ugly that stuff is, the throw up, the poop, it is just life in the trenches, right? It's real. And there's no glossing over it, right? Death does the same thing in a different way. You're changed by this death, and you are changed forever. What you knew to be true is not so true anymore. We are led to believe a lot of man-made beliefs, you know? And what happens through these kinds of losses is that you start to see what's baloney and what the truth is. For instance, if you do good, you'll get good. Right? Right. Bad things only happen to bad people. Right? And what's the truth? Life is unfair. That's the truth.
Bad things happen to good people.
Bad things happen to good people, as the book from Kushner says. Rabbi Kushner. Bad things happen to good people, and life is unfair. We learn to live in an unfair world, or we don't survive. People would come in with divorces, and they would say to me, we just want to make this fair. And I had a real hard time not just bursting into laughter, because I would have to sit down and say, first of all, let's get clear. There's no such thing as fair. This will not be fair. None of you is going to like this outcome. There isn't going to be anything in this that you are both going to say, yes, this is exactly right. You're going to walk out of there and go, I got screwed on this. I'm going to screw him on that. And, you know? Yeah. And you'll learn that life just isn't going to be fair. I just got to play the hand I get. And I have all the power right up in here to make it exactly what I want it to be. I can make it crap, or I can make it good.
And is that just
What am I going to choose? It's thoughts. It's not even attitude, it's thoughts. Your attitudes are developed by what you think. And if we choose thoughts, optimistic, powerful thoughts, I know how to do this. If I don't know where to do it, I can find out where to do it. Hopeful thoughts. Hope is probably a big piece. So philosophically, you get very much ingrained in what the truth is, and you can no longer live in the falsehoods, and your life starts to be much more congruent with what the truth is. And now you become, what's the word I'm looking for? Authentic. You have the authentic information, and we start to live authentically. And what I'm hearing, as I would listen to my clients about 5 years down the road, they would say, I can look in that mirror, and I actually recognize the person that's looking back. But that took a while to get there, didn't it? And what I hear with divorce is, when we're talking about reorganization, you know, when we first divorced, they're the bad guys, and you know, I hear about terrible spouses and husbands and wives, and it's just they're sick or they're ill or they're perverted or whatever. And yeah, I'm sure some of that's true, but I also know everybody has some really good qualities, and you wouldn't have gotten involved with them unless you saw the good qualities, right? So when we look at reorganization, I can hear, and it seems like it's about 10 years down the road, after they've worked with the fears about the guilt and the shame and the blame and all that sort of stuff, and they've kind of relieved themselves of that, they can say, yeah, the divorce was the right thing to do. He wasn't so good with finances, but he was really, really good with the kids, We can start to look at the full personality and look at it in a balanced way versus imbalanced. From, it's my fault, I'm a terrible person, to, wait a minute, I had to do the right things for the right reasons. And you kind of, after working with it over the years and years and years, you start to see the truth in all of that, and you start to get yourself off the hook, which is where you need to be, off the hook. I know, it's time to stop.
Sorry, he has the world's loudest yawns.
That's okay. It's a good message.
He's yawning.
So how do you guys set yourself up for success? We're going to end on this. First, you got to get up and do something. If you sit back and just wait for this to kind of wash over you and it'll eventually go away, it ain't never going to happen. It's what I call, invented as the 13th month wonder widow. They come in after 13 months and say, I feel as lousy as I did the first day. And I said, what have you been doing? Well, I've been nothing. I've been waiting for time to heal. Right? Time doesn't heal anything. There is no such thing as time. So we have to get up and do something. You're doing something tonight. You're learning. You're getting together. You're trying to make yourself something else. You have to grow up. Get rid of some of those old belief systems that don't work. Take responsibility for who you are and let go of who they are. It doesn't matter who they are anymore. That's them. That's their problem. Get off of them and get on to you. What else do I want to say about growth? Learn who you are. Those magazines have all those little quizzes to learn out who you are. I see one on Facebook every day. What actress looks like you, or what words mean you, or whatever they are.
Which Disney princess are you?
Yeah, there you go. Take them. Take them. Learn them. Because they'll give you a little bit more information about you. And a nice way to identify with yourself and define yourself. So take those tests and help yourself learn about who you are. Give up something. You might have to give up something to get something. You might have to give up some money or some time. You might have to give up some relationships to get something. You might have to give up something to get something. That it isn't all about, here's this fair part, it isn't all about that I should get whatever I want. No, it's a trade-off. Life is balance. And finally, gather up. Gather up professionals, people that know more than you do about stuff. Gather up friendships, relationships, this kind of stuff, knowledge, books, whatever. Gather it up so that you've got the resources and the power to do what you need to do. And I'm 10 minutes ahead, you guys. Any thoughts or questions? Thank you for bringing that up, though, because that's really, really important. Children never finish their grief work in their youth. And so what you will see is that you work with them at the stage they are of development. So if they're 3 or 4, you talk to them in a 3 or 4 understandable way. And then it goes underground. As a child, it might be, well, who's going to sleep where? And that's all they're really concerned about. So you tell them, well, someone's going to sleep here and someone's going to sleep there. And then it'll go underground for a while. And then that little brain develops a little bit more, and it'll pop up again. And you'll have to deal with it at that new developmental level. And then it'll go underground again. And then it'll pop up again in the teen years. And it'll have to be reworked. In the teen years, it comes up as more agitation, frustration, irritation,
So you wait for that
caustic.
symptoms or them to come to you.
Oh, you, as a parent, you got to be on the guard because they don't know what the hell's going on with them. They're adolescents. What, did you know anything when you were an adolescent?
It's hard to discern.
You're just a walking emotional amoeba. You know? You got it. You have
We
to.
would know. We were that once.
We would know. So no, I don't think you wait for them. What we hope for is that as a parent, you've been coaching them all through their lives to be able to communicate with you at some level. But if that hasn't always occurred, and teenagers don't want to communicate with you, they think you stink, you're so dumb, you have no idea what's going on in the world. You know nothing. So you have to listen for the cues. And if you find there's a little more irritability, a little more depressed, start not directly to say, are you thinking about the divorce or whatever, but just try and ask questions around it that help them communicate it. And then it goes underground and pops up again at a new developmental stage, a level in their life, and then it goes underground and pops up again. And about the age of 28, 30 for women, 33 so for men, is when they really start to take a hold of it and work with their grief. And the reason I know that is because a lot of people would come into my practice at that age, at 28, 30, early 40s, who had lost parents or had divorces when they were children. And it was just now that they had the existential sophistication to start to deal with this sort of stuff. So children never finish it in their grief work in their youth. It will be completed when their brains are more adult in their 30s.
That's really good to know.
Yes, it takes the pressure off those kids.
A 24-year-old that is handling this big as a 13-year-old.
Right.
I'm so surprised by that.
Right. No, she's not there yet. Yeah. Great questions.
Great. What about my son and his wife that lost the baby recently? They're in their like 31, 32 age. And their grief to me, it's horrible. But I'm seeing this anger I've never seen before come out of my son. That's scary to me. Like, where did that come from? He's so docile, and he's so quiet, and all of a sudden this anger. And you mentioned knowledge. She's a therapist. But
Which doesn't mean anything, you know.
No.
Okay, good.
But, this whole thing about physically what happened, that the baby died, she has pages and pages of little notes of what she did wrong in her pregnancy.
Oh, my goodness.
So she's in this.
There's her thing. Yeah.
That's her thing.
Well, they sound very normal.
It's yes.
They sound very normal.
Yes.
And they'll do that until they get tired of doing it.
Yeah.
Keeping it directed healthfully is hard, but how new is this?
4 months ago today.
Well, yeah,
it's
let
very
them have it for a while here.
Yeah.
And they've got good support groups. I'm sure their hospital has connected them with other, so getting involved in that is really probably the most beneficial.
Therapeutically, they're having me archive everything that happened during that week in the hospital with the baby. We're scrapbooking over 500 pictures, and it's kind of hard and morbid because I'm scrapbooking my granddaughter.
They're searching.
It's searching.
It's like the family that wants to go to the accident scene and dig in the dirt for every bone, and
That's what we're doing.
And that's just fine. It's a part of therapy. It's very valuable, and if you stop it, you're gonna hurt this relationship for life. So let it happen.
We're doing it.
It's a search that needs to happen. You just have to say, I can't do this, if you can't do it. If it's too much for you, you back away and do it as you can or when you can.
It's
Take care of-
therapeutic for me.
Oh, good.
It helps me do
Good.
it. It helps.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Great questions. You're a great group. Thank you. And my book's for sale back there if you want to buy one.
Are you taking patients?
The book is back there if you want to, and I can sign it for you if you like as well.